Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. What's up, guys? My name is Luke Grumman. I am the sports editor for the Eastern Echo. I'm making this video because I wanted to create some new and exciting content for you guys, and it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time myself. So my goal with this channel is to bring you more information about Eastern Michigan sports and kind of give some analysis, like something palpable, as opposed to here's a game summary, read it, check it out, because let's be honest, it's not exactly exciting stuff to read. I want to talk about athletes. I want to talk about what's going on. That's a lot of fun. I love doing that. With that being said, please like, subscribe, and comment if there's any sports you want me to cover. If there's an athlete you want me to analyze, just let me know in the comments. I know I probably won't get a single view for quite a long time, but I don't really care because I want to do this. This is so much fun. So now with the intro out of the way, let's get into it. So first of all, I want to talk about the big moneymaker, EMU football. They're currently sitting at 0-4, and I kind of want to talk about real quick about expectations. Expectations for this team should not be the same as in years past, and I have a podcast with Caleb Burlingham, who's an opinions writer, and we talked about this, Spotify.com/The Factory Report. You have to go into the season with a different almost mindset, because there's a couple reasons why I'm cutting the team some slack. So first of all, it's Corona season. All practices are weird. And I was just watching the show Hard Knocks. They couldn't even have a regular training camp, and that's the frickin' NFL. The MAC has a lot less money. They don't have as many resources. You need to cut this team, just teams in general, a little bit of slack for that. Also, this team's had a real tough time with injury. Just last game, Darius Boone Jr. has been injured for the second week in a row, and he probably won't play this Saturday against Western Michigan. So that's a big challenge right there. And then we didn't even get Dylan Drummond back until last time we played. I believe it was Friday. Yeah, we played on Black Friday. But about the Eagles, I want to start off talking about their best player, Preston Hutchinson. I crunched the numbers. He has an 88.41% passer rating, which is better than the average in the NFL. He's a really good quarterback. And I know that he came in for, I believe he started 3 games last season for Mike Glass. That was before I covered football, so I'm not 100% familiar with that, but I believe that's what happened. And this year, he's really showing us what he's got. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. He's really athletic. He can pull the ball. He can run. He can do just about all of it. The only problem is that his decision making is subpar in key critical moments. So, for example, this would be on Friday. They were playing Central Michigan, and I believe it was the last 3 minutes, there was 2 interceptions from him. Now, one of them, you can argue that it wasn't exactly his fault. The ball bounced off. I believe it was Tanner Canoe. I actually don't know how to pronounce his name. It's because it's Knue. Tanner Canoe, Tanner New. I don't know. So, Mr. Tanner, if you're out there, I sincerely apologize. But my point is that, that interception may not have been his fault, but this is a consistent pattern that he's shown. You have big interception against Central Michigan. 2 big interceptions against Central Michigan. Their first game, it was against Kent State. On their last drive, they were looking to score and go up, and they were tied at the time, and they ran a speed option. So he had the option either to pitch it to Darius Boone, or no, not Darius Boone. He was injured that time. Whoever was at running back. He had the option to pitch it to the running back or to keep it himself, and he kept it himself and got tackled. It was a 4th and 1. So that was the first really poor decision he made. And with Hutchinson, he will get better as the seasons progress. So next season, he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the MAC. He already is really good. He already has the talent. But if you just give him time, give him experience, he'll get even better. He'll be able to cut down on his turnovers and, poor decisions. Now, another reason why his turnover numbers may be a bit inflated is because the Eagles' run game has not been good. And I was talking about this on the podcast. The key for the Eagles is to be able to run the ball because they have an amazing air raid offense. But that offense has to be complemented by a run game. The running game just isn't there. And part of that's because Darius Boone Jr. is injured. But the other backs just haven't really stepped up. You know, Trey Best is the next best thing they've got. What are his numbers? 13 attempts for 65 yards. 5.0 average. But the chief number of touches have gone to Samson Evans. 27 carries, 70 yards, 2.6 average. That's not that good. No touchdowns. Preston Hutchinson leads the team in rushing and rushing touchdowns. He's got 6. Preston Hutchinson has been their entire offense. And putting that pressure on a first-year starter, like, I know he's a D1 athlete. He's a player. Like, he's built for this. But next year, you're going to see the cleanup. You're going to see, hopefully, the running backs being able to step up, or whatever the problem is will be figured out. And this team will be one to reckon with. So let's talk about wideouts, because they are so much fun to watch. Like, at any given night, just like they have players who are just gonna ball out. Badune's kind of the he has functioned as, I guess, like the slot security pick for Hutchinson. So if Hutchinson needs that 3rd and 3, he's throwing it to Badune. So Badune has the most receptions with 25, 276 total yards, no touchdowns. Tanner Canoe is kind of like a speedster breakout threat. 20 receptions, 282 yards, 14.1 average. He's got a touchdown. But what's really interesting to me is the tight ends. Bryson Cannon and Thomas Odukoya. These guys are freaking ballers. They each have 2 touchdowns. Odukoya, let's see. Odukoya has 5 receptions for 43 yards. Bryson Cannon has 9 for 178. Bryson Cannon, in their first game against Kent State, he balled out. He had an enormous reception, 79 yards, very impressive. And another thing too is that they didn't even get one of their best receivers from last year, Dylan Drummond, back until last Friday. He 1 reception for 13 yards, but he's still a baller. Like, and I know there were a lot of people tweeting me and asking me about his return. I'm very happy to have him back. The only thing that this wide receiving core lacks is a deep threat, a long and tall receiver who can go up in double coverage and get a ball. I mean, you should never throw in double coverage anyway. But this team lacks a deep threat. They can still get it done. They're able to put together consistent passing drives, which is very impressive, especially since Hutchinson really hasn't been able to use play action, and he's been running the ball and throwing it. So it's all going through Hutchinson. So the fact that they're able to have the offensive production that they do have, it makes me hopeful. It makes me hopeful for this team, what it's going to become, hopefully next year. I would be shocked if they didn't go, or they weren't one of the best teams in the entire MAC next year. All right, so let's move on to men's basketball. I love men's basketball. I've covered men's basketball for forever, and this is the team that I probably have the best hold on. They've only had 1 game, though, and that was against MSU last Wednesday. So the interesting thing about this game was that 6 of their players were out due to the virus. Quick correction, those players actually did not test positive. They were put into contact tracing protocols. There was a assistant coach who did test positive, and the players who were in contact with that coach were quarantined. The players did not test positive. They were down 6 players, and 2 of them were their centers, Axel Okongo, and I forget who their other center is. So they had to run with Ty Gross at the 5. And Ty Gross is an amazing player, But running small ball against MSU is not exactly a great idea because MSU's got freaking players. And of the 8 players who made the trip, only 7 of them played. You're kind of seeing a transition changing with the guard because Ty Gross is the last player from that team with James Thompson the third and all those great players. He's the last player from that team. So you're kind of seeing the transition from that team's talent to a new squad. So, it's the same basic idea, same basic concept, but it's new players. I liked what I saw from their defense. Their defense gave MSU a lot of trouble. Notre Dame, when they played MSU, they tried to do a similar 2-3 zone. MSU picked them apart. But Eastern Michigan was actually winning at one point. They got an opportune turnover, and they balled out. In terms of offense, they were trying to force the ball through Ty Gross, who's their best player. But Yeekson Montero just came out of nowhere and dropped a bunch of points. So it was great to see that from him. Yeekson Montero is a very good point guard. The strength of the Eagles men's basketball team has always been their point guards. Their point guards have been really good, and last year you saw it with their defense. They really came to play each and every single game, and whether it was off the bench or just the stars, they each were hawking for balls, looking for steals. It was great to watch. But Yeekson Montero and Eastern Michigan, in general, they have really suffered from beyond the arc in three-point shooting. Their three-point shooting has not been good. And, Montero hit a 3, but the fact that he was able to score points and in the paint against a team like MSU was very heartening. And I hope he's able to step up to be that PG1, that guy who's going to be able to get you a bucket whenever you need it. Kind of like, not exactly like Russell Westbrook, but like that type of style. Like he's going to drive, he's going to score no matter what happens, whether it's a dunk or whatever. But like I said, I like what I saw from their defense. They have a really good defense, and it would have been even better if they had their 2 centers play, because then you had Ty Gross in the middle. Like I said, Ty Gross he's a great defender, but going against like these MSU centers, as Ty Gross as a forward, it's a mismatch, and that's no offense to him, but that's just the truth. MSU did a good job of because they knew what they were doing. Those guys are freaking pros. They really attacked that zone, and the fact that Eastern Michigan was able to hold them down for a majority of the game was very impressive. In terms of what to see this season, I honestly don't know how I feel about them in total, because it's only been one game, and their next game is Friday. So I'll be able to have a better handle on them then, and get back to you all then. So let's move on to the last team, the women's basketball team. I love watching this team, and sometimes they drive me crazy, but I do love watching them, and they've got some really exciting players. If there is a team to watch, you should watch the women's basketball team. So last game, they were playing UIC. I have no idea what university that was. So unfortunately, they lost. They're sitting at 1-1, which drives me crazy because they're better than this team. UIC wasn't that amazing of a team. They had decent guards, but they shouldn't have won that game. It was more because Eastern Michigan wasn't able to score at all, especially during the final set. And I'm going to talk about that for a bit. But first, the story of the game was Sonara Skanes. I think I'm saying her name right. Had a career high 30 points for a women's basketball game. And this is her first year starting. She's a forward. I believe she's a sophomore. 14 for 25 from the field. No 3-point shots. 2 for 3 on free throws. Very impressive. She was a lot of fun to watch. She scored, I believe, 11. I'm not sure. But she's been a really consistent contributor, because Eastern Michigan, the women's basketball team, has had 2 games, Southern Illinois and then UIC. She scored well against Southern Illinois and then just frickin' opened a can of whoop ass on UIC with 30 points. 30 points. yeah, that was great to watch. She's very exciting. She's athletic. She has got post moves. She is a ton of fun to watch. But now that I've talked about the good, I have to talk about the bad. And this was the bad that I saw, and it doesn't concern me too much because this team just has so much talent. I feel that they can overcome this. But 0 of 15 from 3 in that game. I could not believe what I was seeing because they just kept chucking up threes, and they wouldn't fall, and they were good looks too, like off the pick. You get the ball, you put it up, and they just couldn't make him. It was maddening. Like Jenna Anacarico, 0 for 5. Natalia Pineda, I believe that's how it's pronounced, 0 for 5. Areanna Combs, 0 for 3. Sanara Skanes, 0 for 2. That was their three-point shooting, which was really, really maddening because even if they just hit 2 or 3 of those, they would have won this game because it would have given them the shooting confidence they needed, and UIC would have had to respect the three because the reason that they lost the game was during the first half, I believe they shot 11 threes, didn't make a single one of them, and then UIC came out and they were like, all right, we aren't even going to pressure you guys out on the three. They knew they had to drive. They knew Eastern Michigan had to drive. And so then what Eastern Michigan did was they force-fed the majority of the points to either Sanara Skanes or to Areanna Combs. Now, I'll get into Areanna Combs in a second. But she wasn't able to score. She would just drive, and then they would just collapse on her, and that was that. Sanara Skanes was able to get she had a mismatch against the UIC forward, so she was able to exploit that. But Areanna Combs had to drive the lane, and she would just get swamped every time because they were able to commit. And she couldn't pass it out to three. They hadn't hit a single one, so they were really in this horrible bind where points really weren't coming to them. It was sad to watch. Another thing is that, or let's see. So yeah, that was the reason that they lost the game, because UIC was able to outscore them, and they couldn't drop anything. Besides Sanara Skanes, they were cold, which was really unfortunate. Now, we'll have to see what happens going forward. I don't think this is something that will plague them. I think that the reason this happened is because COVID. Your practice schedule is all screwed up. It's tough to be mentally there in a game when you have all this going on. So this is a team that's going to get better and better as the season progresses. And I can't wait for that because they're a lot of fun to watch. Y'all should definitely check. If you watch a single team, it should be the women's. They're really good. Okay, so let's get into players. So first of all, I talked about Sanara Skanes. I want to talk about Areanna Combs. Areanna Combs has the potential to be an all-MAC player, but the problem is that she can be inconsistent at times. When she flips the switch, she is a baller and a player, and she's really good on defense too. But she's not consistent enough to be like the primary scorer. So maybe that's what Sanara Skanes is coming in to do. But I don't know. I just feel like Combs just sometimes she's got it and she's feeling it that night, and sometimes she's not. And I hope she feels it every night. But well, that's the problem with Combs. Sometimes she'll drop 20 and sometimes she'll drop 8. So that's that. She also missed 2 clutch free throws at the end of the game. So Eastern Michigan was down by 2, and it was the final seconds of the game. And Combs was at the line. She missed both free throws. Maddening. She was 3 for 10 from the free throw line, which, if you're one of the team's best players, you have to be shooting better. And the team in general, from free throw, 8 for 17, under 50%. That the fact that they're shooting poorly from the line and from 3 shows that there's something. It's an issue up here, and I don't know if it's coaching. It's probably COVID. That would be my guess. I don't know. But something's wrong with the team's either mental balance or whatever. And, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying they're psychopaths or anything. I'm just saying that their schedule's been screwed up. They aren't able to fully focus on, or at least for the UIC game, they weren't able to fully focus on it. I think as the season goes on, they'll learn to focus even better. Last nugget. I want to talk about Rajon Harris because they did something at center that really excited me. And let's see. They may have done this a bit last year, toyed with it at the end of the season. I was covering the men's basketball team at the time. I wanted to cover the women's basketball team more, but that was that. They may have toyed with this a bit last season, but what they did this game was they had Rajon Harris. She's a center start. For this team, she played 12 minutes. Yeah, so she played 12 minutes. She played center for the majority of the game, but with her she's a very athletic player, and she gives the Eagles like a different skill set when she comes in versus Autumn Hudson. Autumn Hudson is a great player. She's a great defender. She could rebound the crap out of the ball, but sometimes you need someone like Harris who can run the floor and be really athletic down low, who can give this team a different edge. And I like that they have both Autumn Hudson and Harris because it gives them flexibility with what they're able to do and the opponents they're scoring. So if they're playing a team with like a really good center, they're like, all right, we're going to bring Autumn Hudson. She's going to shut the center down. She's going to be able to lock down the boards. Let's see. Eastern Michigan they were able to rebound decently against UIC. So that wasn't a huge problem with them. But I just wanted to bring that up because that was something that I really liked, and I hope they really explore that going forward. But like in conclusion, this team has the best chance of these three teams that I've mentioned, of the three teams that are playing right now, of winning the MAC. So I would award them with all of my attention. And I know it's like the women's basketball team, whatever. They're good players. Like I enjoy watching them. I'd watch them if I were you guys, but that's just my opinion. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you made it this far in the video. I hope I didn't bore you guys. This is really exciting to me. I hope it's exciting to you guys. But thanks for watching. Again, please like, subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at Luke Gremban. That's LUKEGREMBAN. Check out the podcast I do. It's called The Factory Report. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find podcast. Thanks. See y'all.